I love it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ladies Power Lunch. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, I have a very special guest. So, here's what happened. What happened was I went on her podcast as a guest and fell 100% head over heels in love with her. She is amazing. We had such great conversation. After she hit stop on the recording for her podcast, she and I were probably talking for a full half hour afterwards just because we're so in sync and we're so on the same page and our intention. Her podcast is a sisterhood podcast. My podcast is a ladies power lunch podcast. See some synergy there?
Yep.
Well, if you haven't seen the synergy yet, I promise you will see it by the time we've finished this conversation because she's outstanding. She's amazing. But I could sit here and sing her praises all day long. But wouldn't it be wonderful if we gave her the opportunity to share with you? So, Laurie-Ann, will you share with everybody who you are and tell them a little bit about the wonderful things that you're doing in the world?
Yes, that was, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I'm so excited to be here. And that was literally the best intro I've ever received. Ever. Well, yeah, where do I begin? Yeah, this is always like the hardest question to answer. First of all, my business is called Contagiously Positive, and pre-Contagiously Positive days, I spent 10 years in the project management arena and for a large general contracting firm. I wasn't feeling fulfilled in that career, so I hired a career coach. And in the process of hiring a career coach, I realized that I wanted to be a life coach. I wanted to be there to support other women who were feeling alone the way that I was feeling alone with just life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, like who had just as many questions as I had about everything. And as I was taking myself through all of these brand new tools and all of these new practices, I realized I need to teach this. I need to be there to support other women. So I decided to throw my business degree to the side for a while, and I became a certified life coach. I went into a 6-month certification program. I had to get on a plane every single month and go to a new city for 3 days for this certification program. And I had to do that for 6 months. So it was intensive, but I was committed, and it was such an amazing experience. So I've had my coaching practice now for a decade, which is just like insane to me to even put into words how long I have been doing this. And through that process, my business has just evolved. I'm not just a general life coach anymore. I focus more on mindset and emotions coaching. And I'm also the host of the Sisterhood Podcast, just another way for me to share experiences and incredible guests like you and their experiences and practices so that women just don't feel alone in this world, and we can connect and support each other through these meaningful conversations. And through this decade, I've also become a facilitator. People liked what I had to say and hire me to come into their companies. Thank God, bless them, to have me come in and share my lessons and my tools and my practices. So yeah, it's been a crazy decade, building Contagiously Positive, but just more than the business, I just really just love being able to connect with these incredible women all around the world who are just like, I'm all alone, I don't know what to do, and they just need a little bit of guidance. So it's just been such a gift to be able to do that and use my own experiences to be able to do that is so incredible. I only teach what I know. And if I don't know it, it's like, then I can't, I'm not the right support for someone.
I hear you. You know, what's really interesting as you were explaining about what it is that you do is that you came to the realization that you felt alone and that you
Mm-hmm.
needed support. And it's interesting because it feels like every woman out there has that same feeling. So, how can we be alone if we're all feeling like we're alone? You know what
It's
I
so
mean?
true.
How
Yeah.
are you finding giving people that opportunity to realize that they're not alone? How are you finding sharing that message has been going for you?
It's been incredible. I find there's so many things that I've done myself in my own life, or that have been done to me, or that I've just experienced, that I used to have so much shame around or so much guilt around. And I've learned from them, and I know that I've learned from them. But when it comes to shame, as we know, like, it just, even though you've learned deep lessons and you've grown and you've learned more about yourself and now you get to be better, that shame can just like take you into this, I call it like this shame spiral. And when I started to share my story and I started to share my experiences, the shame started to go away, because I was connecting with these women who were saying, I've had the same experience. And in that, I realized that I'm not just there to support them, they're also there to support me. Even though I would never go to my client and be like, can you coach me today? Like, I need to tell you about my problems. It's simply in that act of those two words, just me too. I've had that similar experience, and that shame goes away. And the more I share and the more honest I am, and the more I connect with these incredible women and just be able to just help them through whatever they're going through, it just makes everything I've gone through just like, not like, just worth it. It's like, this is why I went through this. So now I can be a support and provide a safe container for someone else to say, me too, I'm going through this right now. What did you do to get through it? So I don't just share my experience, what happened. I share my experience, what happened. I share all the things that I did in that, I call it that messy middle. And then this is how I'm feeling now that I'm on the other side, and what I'm doing continuously to support that, so that I don't go back into that like spiral or go back into that cycle. So it's like the full process. I find so often when we're trying to get support from people, we hear what they went through and where they are now. And while that's so amazing, we're sitting there being like, well, I feel like a failure because I'm not there. I'm still there. What are you doing here in this? I call it like that messy magical middle, because there is this messy magical middle that just happens when we're going through any healing process or any learning or any growth. So that's been really, really the biggest gift out of being able to do this and running my coaching practice, is just, there's no shame in anything that I've gone through. I get to just be a safe container for someone else who's going through it as well.
I love that you call it the messy middle. That's a fun word. I
Yeah.
One of my mentors who I have such very deep respect for, who when I was going through my coaching program, she was one of my preceptors. She talks about the sourced experience. It's like that experience that you have in that middle space that
Yeah.
actually molds you into becoming the person that you are at the end. And I feel like it's really a nice way to explain it. It's messy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
always pretty. We can definitely talk a lot about, steps and processes, but I feel like people learn more from hearing stories and hearing examples. Would you be open, Laurie-Ann, to sharing with us today an example of, it could be your example, or it could even be an example of a client that you feel is appropriate for this, where the person felt alone, but then they went through this particular set of circumstances and they came out at the end a-okay. Can you share something like that with us?
God, I have so many. I have so many. I'll share one that came up recently because it's so recent and I'm on the other side of it now. We've all been experiencing so much the past 2 years with everything, with lockdowns and the pandemic, and just like all the things that have come out of losing jobs, having to shift in our jobs. And just like, there's just been this influx. Of course, you go online and there's so much, like, there's so much to take in mentally and emotionally. Like, there's just so much. And I was feeling really overwhelmed. I went right into fight mode and at the beginning. And I was like, I'm just going to provide as much support as I can. And I just kept going online and doing podcasts and releasing courses and giving all this free stuff away. And then I found myself feeling depleted. And then I was going online and I was seeing a lot of things that I didn't enjoy seeing. And I saw a lot of hate towards other women and a lot of stuff that was combative. And I could feel myself getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And I needed to take a hiatus. I decided I'm just not connected to my company. I was thinking I was just going to close it. Why does any of this matter? And I just decided, okay, before making a decision from the emotional state of anger, why don't you just take a pause? And I ended up taking a month-long hiatus from everything. And through that month-long hiatus, I started to just reflect on some of the things that I was feeling, where the anger was coming from, and what I could do with that anger, and how I could use the anger proactively instead of from a reactive state where then I have to say, I'm so sorry for what I said when I was angry. And when I got on the other side, because listen, it was so hard to be in that state, like to be in that state of anger where you lose your hope and you lose your faith for someone who loves that I can see the bright side of life and see the optimism. Like it was so challenging. It was such a hard time to be in that anger. And I didn't feel, when I was in that messy middle, I didn't feel like I would ever feel anything other than this like burning rage just inside me about the world. And I just kept turning to my practices and doing my practices and doing the reflections.
What are your practices?
Well, my practices then were, I got rid of everything that would just like, that I felt like this just feels like too much work. And my practice became just going on daily nature walks. I'm like, how can I bring this down to like the most micro level? Because I'm already feeling so overwhelmed. So I brought it right down to the most micro level, my daily walks and my journaling. And I just kept on my daily walks. I was actually speaking through my anger. I was speaking to my anger. I was speaking to the universe, saying why I was so angry. And I was letting all the anger out in a safe space. Like I'm out in nature. I'm like, trees, you take it, right? And then in my journal, I was doing the same thing. This is why I'm so angry. I just would like free write, filter free, like just like go all out. And all of a sudden I could feel myself get lighter and lighter and lighter. And I got deeper as into the reason why I was so angry. And seeing that my anger was coming from a place of empathy. Well, what can I do then from a place of empathy instead of rage? And I started to share my story. And I went on to the podcast and Instagram lives and in my coaching email and just like Instagram posts all about anger. And I spent a month after my month-long hiatus talking about anger and how we can use our anger and how we can be more proactive and how we're not bad because we're feeling this, quote unquote, negative emotion. We're feeling it for a reason. And the stories I was hearing from other people was like, oh my God, I've been angry too. Oh my God, I've been doing this too. Now I know how to talk to my spouse. Now I have, tools to be able to like go into work and not rage out on my employee, on my team. And I was just hearing all these stories reflected back, people saying, I'm angry too. And I started to think, well, why is no one sharing this then? Because we don't want to go online and say, by the way, I'm angry all the time, right? We don't want to do that. So having these conversations, talking about what I went through and all the things that I was doing, and then the lessons that I learned about it and hearing that me too, it was like a reigniting of my purpose. This is why we share. We connect through meaningful conversations, and it can't be meaningful if it's only about the things that are good in our lives. Like it just can't. We don't connect because if we're only sharing every single bright, sunny, shiny rainbow, unicorn in the sky story of the incredible things that can happen to us. Those who are not feeling that way think that there's something wrong with them. I thought something was wrong with me. I'm like, I'm the contagiously positive girl. I don't get angry. And I just couldn't let it go. And I didn't know it at the time, but it was a really good lesson for me on how much I had been bypassing my emotions and bypassing my feelings, and got into my old cycle of toxic positivity through the past couple of years, because I was in protective mode. I was protecting myself from feeling any more stress than what I was already feeling, bringing in any more stressors. And it's funny that it happened while life is starting to get back to some sense of normal. That's when I sort of like hit that like anger rock bottom, if you will, because all the other distractions were gone. So now I had no choice but to feel those feelings. So the stories on the other side were incredible. Now, I'm not coaching anyone on anger right now, because this is just brand new. Like, this is literally just my this is my February experience. But sharing the stories, I just think we're constantly, you can be a teacher and a coach or a mentor, even if you're not a certified coach, mentor, or a teacher. Your stories and your experiences, what you're going through and how you got through to the other side and how you got through that messy middle, like, that's a gift for everyone. So it was a big, big lesson for me during that process.
I love that. So while you were going through this process of sharing your story,
Mm-hmm.
what's some of the feedback that you were getting from other people? It's interesting that you share this, because I feel like
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience during our quarantine experience. I feel like I had a very similar experience, and you're all the way on your side, and I'm all the way
Yeah.
on my side. And our experiences could have been mirroring each other. So, what were people saying back to you?
A lot of the comments were, I have felt so much shame for feeling this way. Some of them were, I know better. I know better. So I should have been able to get through this. Some of them were, they were just feeling like they weren't good enough or weren't worthy enough, because they couldn't just be all come online and be all sunshine and just ignore the problems that were going on in the world. So that's a lot of what women were feeling, were just that, like, they were doing something wrong. A lot of the stories were I thought I was doing something wrong. And that was my thing too, because also what happened through the past 2 years is we had a boom, like a massive boom of the manifestation coaching industry, just like pop up. Like, everyone's now, all of a sudden, you're going online and everyone is a financial manifestation abundance coach. And I'm hearing all these things about, if you just fix your mindset, everything will be okay. And I'm sitting here getting angry, thinking like, my mindset is not going to cure this pandemic. Like, yeah, I want to be in joy and that feels really good, but my mindset's not the issue here. My mindset's not the only issue here, right? There are things happening in the world that I'm allowed to feel sad and angry about. And a lot of women were saying, you gave me permission to feel upset about things that people were telling me I shouldn't be upset about, because if I stayed in that like upsetness, if I got sad, if I got angry, I would push away the things that I wanted. So I was getting stories like, I was acting as though I was really positive, like all of this was a gift, like losing my job was a gift. And in the meantime, I couldn't put food on the table for my kids. And I'm right, like I'm stressing about the food. And they're like, and a lot of them were saying, I couldn't see the gift in that, but I was so afraid to feel the fear of it, because I was afraid if I felt a normal, fearful emotion, then I would push away the manifestation that I wanted. So I was hearing stories like that as well. And I was also, but the biggest thing was, thank God I thought I was the only one. Thank God I thought I was the only one. And it also helped people to get clear about, I'm angry, but I don't need to be in a reactive, angry state. And that was the thing that I kept asking myself. That was one of my daily tools, was just because I'm angry doesn't mean I have to act on this anger. So if I wasn't angry, how would I show up? If I wasn't angry, how would I react and respond to this? Even if I am angry, how do I want to respond and react to this? So I just kept asking myself those questions, asking myself the questions on how I want to show up, even in this feeling. And how would I show up if I wasn't feeling this feeling? So I wasn't bypassing anything. I was bringing them both together, because there's no bad emotion. One might not feel great to take permanent residence in, but it's not bad. And I think when we label it as bad, one woman said to me, I have actually felt like a bad girl, which brought up a bad girl trauma from her childhood. Like, how often are we like, I'm a bad girl because I let my anger show? And it's like, God, let it show. Like, our anger can be a really good fuel when it's directed at trying to be proactive, make positive changes. But there is no bad emotion. Like, your feelings matter, period. Like, that's just it. We're human beings. I'd be concerned if we didn't feel empathy about what was going on in the world, except sometimes that empathy, when we don't actually look at why we're feeling the way we're feeling, that empathy can turn into anger and rage, which is what I was feeling.
I totally understand that. And,
Yeah,
I embrace that you say there are no bad emotions. There are
yeah,
emotions that are more comfortable than
exactly.
others. However, there is, like you experienced, a danger with the emotional bypassing. And I have experienced that
Yeah.
firsthand with being toxically positive in a way
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And now I'm at a stage where I've been through my messy middle, and now I'm at a stage where when the emotions come that don't feel as easy to deal with, I'm able
Mm-hmm.
to sit with them and I'm able to process them and move them actually through my body. And
Yeah.
that helps me to get to the other side in a
Mm-hmm.
better, and I would even say more healthy way than I have
Yeah.
been before. So I absolutely embrace what you're saying. One of the things that I also would encourage is you definitely want to feel your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you don't want to stay with an emotion that doesn't feel great for too
Yeah.
long, but you want to feel it, you want to process it, and then you want to move to the next thing.
Yeah.
That has been my personal experience. Give us some advice, Laurie-Ann. Share with us, for women who are out there who are feeling alone, what are some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that they can do to go from being alone to being abundant?
I love that. That's such a good question. Connect with, so first, I think sometimes I want to just say, create your support system, like make sure you're surrounded by people, of course, like loved ones. That's so important. But sometimes it's not the thing that you're going to turn to when you're right in the middle of it. You're going to feel a little bit more isolated, or you just don't feel like connecting with someone else. So what I did is I actually started, I I always think of like a little person at Google being like, oh my God, what is she Googling? But I actually started to listen to podcasts about anger, and I started to listen to stories. And that's what I would take that on my walk, and I would listen to other people who were feeling angry. And I started to, and then it was funny because in that I typed in a little search, and there was a Brene Brown podcast, and she had on a guest that was talking about the same thing. Like, she was talking about how she was feeling this way, and she just wanted to like give it all up, give it all up. And they were talking about it. So it was like, so every story that I listened to, all the things that like YouTube and podcast, and it was starting to make me feel less alone. So that helped me to feel a little bit more connected to other human beings. And then I started to talk to my friends. I don't think we need to talk to every single person about what we're experiencing, we need to talk to those who we feel safe with and we know aren't going to say, don't worry, it'll get better tomorrow, or like just think more positively and it'll go away, or just be more grateful. And, I think being grateful is amazing, but when you're in the deepness of your emotions, it's the last thing that you're feeling or that you want to hear, because you just want your feelings validated that this is normal. So talk to those people who can really support you. Facebook communities. I mean, that's how we met. Facebook communities, like it doesn't all have to be in person. If you can, that's amazing. But Facebook communities are really phenomenal based on exactly that thing that you're looking to heal, right? One of the questions I always ask is, how do I not take up permanent residence in this emotion, even though it's okay for me to feel that way? And so if I'm feeling angry, I don't really want to be talking to people about like healing something physical. I want to be talking to people who have gone through anger. I want to be talking, if I've lost someone, I want to be connecting with people who have also lost someone, like getting that proper support. So when you're typing into the search, community support, pick it around the thing that like would bring you the most healing right now, that would bring you the most relief. And it kind of has a domino effect from there. The support is everything. We have to connect. We have to connect. We're not meant to live in isolation. And I think so often when we hear about getting support, we always think it has to be in a professional setting, like a coach or therapist, or it needs to be in person. But we can do that online. And sometimes we can do that through just listening to us have a conversation. And sometimes it can be a community group like Facebook. There's so many beautiful community groups, but get your people that will really help you through it. Because that helped me through it. I had 2 people that I spoke to. This is how I'm feeling. I don't need a solution. I need to be able to vent. I need to be able to tell you why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm not looking for a solution right now, because sometimes we're not quite ready for the solution. We're just like, let me feel this. So that's been really helpful for me. That's why I created Sisterhood. It's connecting through meaningful conversations. And it's brought me the most incredible people who also have helped me through the past couple of months, feeling all of these really big feels that I wasn't really prepared to feel. It felt like they came out of nowhere. So that's been really helpful. Our conversation, connecting with you when I had you on the Sisterhood podcast, you told me a few things just about human design. That helped me. So it's so important to keep talking. Keep talking. Whatever you have to say, even if it makes no sense at the time, like keep talking, get that support.
I love that. I was chatting with somebody in the Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group just this morning. And what we were saying to each other is, we've had enough of the surface level
Yeah.
conversations. The highs and the how
Yeah.
are yous, they're fine. But the surface level
Mhm.
conversations, that's not where my heart is right now. What I am interested in
Same.
is I'm interested in having deep, meaningful conversations. I'm interested in having supportive conversations. So I
Yeah.
love the suggestions that you're making for us moving through our emotions instead of bypassing them. Now, can you share with us, Laurie-Ann, how about some don'ts, things that we really should kind of
Mm-hmm.
avoid as we go through this? I know for me, one of the
Mm-hmm.
things is don't stay there too long. Just don't, because you can get
Yeah.
stuck there.
Yeah. Um, Before we do the don'ts, can I just give another tool that I think would be really supportive? It's like coming through, and I'm like, I really think this would be really helpful. Every single day, something that I did, and I've been doing this for a while, is I would ask myself and then write it out and then take action on it. And I was ask myself, what do I need emotionally today? What do I need attitudinally today? Sometimes I need an attitude shift. We all do. What do I need spiritually today? What do I need physically today? And what do I need mentally today? and I would just check in with myself, write down the first things that came to my mind. And that's what I would do. I wouldn't question it. I wouldn't like get into well, I don't have time, I shouldn't do this. I would just really fully connect with what I needed on that day. I found that was so helpful. And usually it's the most simplest of things that we usually discount because they seem too simple. Why would they help? But the simpler it is, the more willing you are to do it. So put that as another do, because that was incredibly supportive while I was going through what I was a couple of months ago. Avoid, don't compare. Do not go online and think everyone must have it together and I'm the only one who doesn't. Because I guarantee sometimes I will share something on social media that's really beautiful and really uplifting because I want to give someone hope that might not be actually how I'm feeling that day. And that's okay. It's what I want someone else to feel. So I think we get so caught up in going on stories, going on Instagram, seeing these curated, beautiful images and stories. And we think they must, especially the success ones, those are the ones we want to share so openly, right? We don't know what's going on in that person's life. We don't know that it may have taken them everything to get out of that bed that day, to do that post, to sell that thing, whatever it might be. We don't know. And I think that is so important. Don't compare when it comes to your business, when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your friendships, when it comes to anything in your life, your health. Don't compare yourself to whatever you see online or even whatever you see in your friends and family's lives. They might not be showing you the whole truth, right? So that's number one. Don't do that. Also, hard to feel sometimes, but very normal emotions. Don't bypass them. You might not feel safe or comfortable getting to it right in the moment. Like I'm feeling this and now I'm just going to go right into the healing. That's fine, but don't let it compound. Don't go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 2 years. Don't go because it compounds. It's not going anywhere. And that's why my anger didn't start as anger. My anger started as fear. Then my anger turned into frustration. Then that started out as first it was fear, frustration, then anger, then rage, then like emotional mental burnout because I couldn't feel them anymore. It was too intense. So it started to have a domino effect on other areas of my life. So don't bypass it. Even if you're like, I shouldn't feel this way, I have too much to be grateful for, don't bypass it. Like those are the two biggest like life hacks, if you will, because those are the things that we do. We compare constantly and then feel like unworthy because it's not happening for us. But again, we don't know what someone else is experiencing, or we think that it's too small to feel. I don't need to feel this today. And it compounds. It compounds and compounds. Those are the two biggest things. And don't let anyone make you feel shame for what you are feeling. And don't let anyone talk you out of what you know is the right thing to do for you. Because that's another thing that we do. We're like, yeah, I'm feeling this way and this is what I'm really feeling I should do. And then someone's like, well, maybe you should try this because this is what worked for me. Trust your gut. Like, don't go against your own gut because it knows best. We know what we need the most, like what we need, right? So yeah, those would be my biggest things to avoid.
Awesome. I am so excited to have this conversations. Guys, I warned you at the beginning. When I get together with Laurie-Ann,
I
it
know.
seems like our conversations could go on forever. Unfortunately, we're right up on time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I would love to ask you to do, Laurie-Ann, is I feel like it would be such a great opportunity for our listeners if you could offer one of our listeners today. If you choose a number between 1 and 20, we can assign
Mm.
this gift to somebody. But if you could offer one of our listeners today a free opportunity to have some conversation with you.
Oh, absolutely. Um, Here's what I'm going to offer. This is what I just think would be so amazing because you're giving away a free gift. Whoever gets chosen, we can either have a one-on-one conversation if that feels really good to you and you want to do that, or I will give you one of my digital workshops. This is what I did. I haven't gone back to in-person workshops since the first lockdown. So I
Okay.
made them all digital and now I have 5. I will give one away if like that feels more comfortable for you, because they are so full of tools and practices and exercises that help you with whatever it is you're like just hump you're trying to get over or whatever it is you're experiencing. So if they want one of the workshops or they want to speak to me directly for, as you know, it probably would go over an hour. I'd be more than happy to do that.
This is such a tremendously generous gift from you, Laurie-Ann. So can you choose a number for us today
Mhm.
from 1 to 20? Just
Let's go with 10.
right. And our free gift winner today is Mina. Awesome.
Awesome. Oh, that's so
Excellent.
wonderful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can you share with us what your website is? If people are watching and they want to know
Yeah.
how to reach out to you, what's your website?
So my website is contagiouslypositive.ca. And everything's on there: how to connect through Instagram, how to connect through Facebook, how to email me so that the winner can email me and let me know how they want to receive this free gift and which workshop they want. So you go online, you go to the digital workshops, pick the workshop you want, and I will gift it. And everything is on there, plus so many free resources. I'm every business coach's nightmare who will tell me you have to stop giving away so much for free. And I'm like, never, never. I
I
will
identify
never,
with that
ever.
so
Mm-mm.
deeply. Even just this week, I was posting on our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group. Great segue. Posting on our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group and just saying to everybody, hey guys, there are so many free resources here. Like you could never buy a thing from Ladies Power Lunch and still get such tremendous benefits. We have our 2 shows a week that you can participate in. We have our um, monthly networking meetings that you can be a part of. Plus, we have tons and tons of content that's in our
Yeah.
podcast and our YouTube channel and in our portal. There are places for you to get a chance to share about your business every week. There are places for you to connect with people every week. There are accountability prompts. There's so much
Oh,
there.
wow. That's
And it's
so
all for
incredible.
100% free to our Ladies
Yeah.
Power Lunch members, and membership is also free. So
That's so
it's
incredible.
great. It's
I
great.
love that. I think this is so important for businesses. Just because you're giving it away doesn't mean no one's ever going to buy from you. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other. You get to do both.
Exactly.
You get to
Because I
do
mean,
both.
people have an opportunity to pay us for things. They can
Yes.
attend our summits. They can decide to be a part of one of our collaboration books or
Yeah.
speak on our summits, or they can be a solo author, or they can participate
Yeah.
with us in the one-on-one programs that I offer, which I'm a projector for all of you human design people. So I only can accommodate very few clients per year, but
Yeah.
for people who want to get in the room with me and they want that one-on-one, that is available too. So there's tons that's free, and there
Yeah.
are also opportunities for people who want to go further. And I think that's
Yeah.
important, and I applaud you, Laurie-Ann, for
Thank
using
you.
that model as opposed to hoarding your resources, because I am a firm believer that
Yeah.
when we share our resources with each other, this rising tide, it lifts every single boat. No boat gets left behind, not even one.
Yeah.
That's my
Absolutely.
philosophy on life. I'm
I
sticking
feel
by
the
it.
same way. Me too, because sometimes people just don't have the financial resources and they need the support. And I would never say to someone, just imagine the money comes and it will come. Like it just, like it's such a privilege, like it just drives me nuts. It's a whole other conversation. But so that's why the more resources I can provide, because I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't. 30 years ago, I couldn't even imagine spending $10 because it was either, putting myself through college, it was either I spend that $10 on food or I spend the $10 on my personal professional development. Let me tell you, it was going to food. But I still needed the help and support. I still needed the help and support. So the more you can give, the more you can share, the better. And I just believe it all comes back to you anyway.
It
all
really,
comes back.
really
It
does.
really does. Yeah. Thank you
We
for
could
this
keep this
time.
conversation going.
Yep.
And I feel like there's an opportunity for you to come on back and we can have a conversation again about
Love it.
other things that you do in your practice. But thank you so much for sharing your gifts and talents
You're
with us.
welcome. Thank you
I
for having
really
me.
appreciate it. Everybody who's been following along with us in our Ladies Power Lunch group, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching with us over on YouTube or if you're joining us on our podcast, thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us. And if you haven't as yet joined us in our Ladies Power Lunch Facebook group, you're absolutely invited. Why haven't you come yet? Come on
Totally.
over.
It's so amazing.
It's an amazing group, and we're really, really only having one rule. And that one rule is we're here to support each other. And if you believe that, then you are the person who needs to be here with us. Have a great, wonderful, wonderful weekend, everybody. And I'll see you guys on the next show. Bye.